What if I told you that the alleged king of the South had simply become the king of chaos in the courtroom? Imagine this. One week, King Harris was clad in diamonds, and the next, he was in handcuffs. The gavel is slammed down by the judge. Not probation, not 5 months, but 5 ruthless years. Then T.I. loses it. Witnesses said that he jumped forward, yelling things too obscene to be broadcast on live television, and slammed his hand against the bench, causing the courtroom to go into a frenzy so chaotic that the bailiffs were unable to maintain order. Was this as justice, or is it a public humiliation of hip-hop royalty? This wasn't just a sentence, let's face it. It was a declaration. Betrayal was screamed by fans outside. There were Tasha fucking hashtags all over Twitter, and rumors circulated about prosecutors determined to destroy the Harris name, backroom agreements, and hidden grudges. Some even asserted that the breakdown was more than just an emotional one. It served as a warning that an empire was imploding right in front of us. It's not just another celebrity collapse, so hold on tight. This is the scandal that has the potential to permanently end Atlanta's rap dynasty. You haven't even heard the worst bit yet, I assure you. It began long before mayhem broke out in the courtroom. You must go back in time to the careless ways of King Harris, the son of Ty, who was raised in the shadow of rap royalty, but couldn't help but create his own scandalous limelight, if you want to truly comprehend how we came to that point. King appeared indestructible from the outside. Exotic vehicles, piles of cash on Instagram Live, and altercations captured on camera that shortly became viral. He was living the life of a star without having to work for it. Crown. But there was a ticking time bomb hidden behind the bluster, and everyone in his immediate vicinity was aware that he would blow. Not if, but when. His recklessness wasn't the only issue. It was that the system was observing, waiting, and honing its skills in anticipation of the ideal opportunity to strike. Because King Harris's youth and stupidity weren't the only factors at play here. This was about the Harris name, a family business that teetered for years on the brink of controversy and adoration. Ty, the self-described hustle, arrogance, and the capacity to recover from scandals that would have wrecked any other celebrity were the foundations of the King of the South's empire. He had weathered everything, including public beefs, feuds, and gun allegations. But he wasn't the only one who had to survive this time. The stakes were 10 times higher because his son was the target this time. Prosecutors, according to insiders, had been pursuing King for months, awaiting the ideal opportunity to use him as an example. According to anonymous rumors, wiretaps, covert surveillance, and possibly undercover agents were already in place. Using every error made by Kings as proof for the takedown that would ultimately rock Atlanta to its foundation. Let's discuss the actual arrest, the one that fans now refer to as explosive. King wasn't found by the side of the road in peace. It was a spectacle, no. Cameras already set up, flashing lights, late at night as though someone had alerted them. Witnesses claimed that the scene resembled a set from a movie. As King yelled about his father's identity and his untouchability, police officers surrounded the car, grinning as though they had been waiting for this moment for years. An unnamed insider claims that the arrest was related to more than just driving infractions. Money trails, underground parties, and rumors of larger crimes connected to more prominent figures were all part of it. Additionally, the cameras clicked at the precise instant the cuffs snapped on. It was almost too good to be true. Was this drama intended to dismantle one of the most well-known families in hip-hop, or was it justice? The next court case was not your typical trial. Every court appearance King made turned into a viral event. Admirers, there were signs outside the courthouse with some yelling, "Free King!" and others calling him derogatory names. Desperate to get a picture of T strolling with his son, TMZ reporters crowded the corridors in the hopes of catching a tear, a stumble, or a hint of weakness. And the rumors continued. Unverified leaks of documents circulated online. Prosecutors allegedly spent years constructing a case against the Harris family, according to blurry screenshots. These alleged disclosures revealed names that went well beyond King Harris, as well as financial irregularities and dubious business relationships. The public loved it, but regardless of whether it was true or not, because perception is more potent than facts in today's environment. The sentencing followed. 5 years. As if all the oxygen had been drawn from the room, the courtroom fell silent. As the words sank in, witnesses claimed Ty froze, his hand clutching the bench. His lineage, his kid, was been punished with a half-decade in prison. King's haughtiness seemed to evaporate in that moment. For T, the collapse had symbolic meaning in addition to being physical. In a single gavel slam, the empire he established, the reputation he battled for, and the dynasty he claimed to rule were all destroyed. Every platform's slow-motion replay of his stumble was captured by the cameras. One viral caption read, "The Fall of a King." Suddenly, King Harris wasn't the only character in the story. The Harris family name was about to fall apart due to its own weight. Remember, though, that this did not occur in a vacuum. King's demise resulted from years of careless actions that the internet viewed as amusement, but the system handled it as if it were proof. Do you recall his tirades on Instagram in which he boasted about his invincibility? The widely shared video showing him almost fighting with employees in a restaurant. He dared anyone to challenge him, chatted recklessly, and flashed money during the late-night live streams. It wasn't just adolescent mischief. They served as a direct route to the courtroom. Prosecutors now had a tidy little bundle. A living example of the effects of hubris is the son of a rap entrepreneur. They had more in mind than only punishing King. Their goal was to make Ty look bad. It was an obvious message. The system has the ability to knock you down, regardless of how strong you believe you are. Not just the courtroom was rocked by the sentencing. Like an earthquake, it tore through Atlanta's music scene. The other rappers remained silent. Some people were secretly relieved that their names weren't on the docket. Others are anxiously awaiting their turn. There were rumors that King's arrest was only the start, that the names of other musicians, promoters, and even politicians are in sealed files. According to one anonymous Twitter user, this is more significant than King. The entire empire is in their sights. Online, there was intense disagreement among fans who were divided between thinking it was a setup and attributing it to King's own careless decisions. The public's division was demonstrated by the trending hashtags "Our Justice for King" and "March Our TI Fall." King was portrayed by some as a victim of systematic persecution. Others made fun of him by sharing memes that contrasted his breakdown with the previous scandals of the father. How is the Harris household faring? According to accounts, commotion broke out behind closed doors. According to reports, Tiny King's mother pleaded with Ty to fight, to appeal, to put every attorney and dime into the case. However, insiders say that T appeared disheartened, as if he was aware that something more profound was going on. Perhaps he was afraid of revealing information he couldn't afford to reveal if he dug too far into the matter. Perhaps he understood that preserving his son wasn't the only goal. It was about defending his remaining kingdom. In any case, in the most visible manner imaginable, the untouchable T's reputation had been destroyed. It wasn't just a father's anguish that caused his downfall. A dynasty was disintegrating in front of millions of people. The change was instantly felt in Atlanta's streets. It was said by rival crews that the Harris family was weak and exposed. According to anonymous texts, adversaries spotted blood in the river, automobiles were surrounding T's houses, and break-ins were being planned. Because the wolves emerge when a king falls. And without a doubt, T.I.'s blunder in that courtroom delivered a message to the streets as well as to fans and the industry. Everyone could smell the blood leaking from the Harris empire. Who will strike first was the only issue. Even while the courtroom fall was quite dramatic, sources feel it was only the beginning. Because virtually immediately following the judgment, rumors started to circulate. Whispers that King Harris's careless decisions weren't the only factor in this. It was more than just making T.I. seem bad. It has to do with something more significant, sinister, and strategic. Something to do with unidentified co-defendants, sealed evidence, and investigations that involved more than one family. And if those rumors were accurate, the Harris collapse that we saw in that courtroom was only the beginning of a far larger scandal that might reveal names that no one ever thought would be revealed. There was more than background noise in the rumors of sealed evidence. They were the sort of rumors that catch on like gasoline. Claims that King Harris wasn't even the primary target erupted in blogs, Twitter threads, and TikTok conspiracy channels within hours of the sentencing. He was merely a pawn of fate. A diversion in a game that is being played at a level that no one could have predicted. They didn't lock up King, they baited Ty. Was one of the widely shared tweets, and the responses were replete with speculations, some of which were absurd, while others were unsettlingly realistic. Prosecutors allegedly had boxes of sealed files with names that extended well beyond the Harris family, according to anonymous accounts. Politicians, managers, promoters, and even other rappers. The story was changing quickly. This has nothing to do with a careless child. This had to do with a take-own. The so-called leaks followed. Blurry screen grabs of purported emails exchanged between unidentified industry contacts and prosecutors. posts that purport to show covert agreements in which insiders betrayed the Harris family in return for leniency in their own trials. We start with the son. The father is next. Was it real? Who knows? Was the purported message in one screenshot that went viral, but did nobody give a damn? Not at all. Perception is reality in the court of public opinion. The impression was also obvious. The goal was to overthrow the Harris dynasty one brick at a time. The fans went crazy. On one side, ardent supporters cried out about systemic targeting, citing T.I.'s past legal troubles as evidence that the system had long harbored animosity toward him. Critics, on the other hand, chuckled and claimed that T's years of avoiding scandals had finally brought karma home, through his kid, caught up to him. Memes were all over Instagram. Polls' caption read, "King of the South, more like King of Cell Block." It featured King Harris dressed in jail attire. Indeed, definitely viral. And each posting and sharing kept the story going, fueled the insatiable curiosity and fury. Fans weren't the only ones stirring things up either. Industry insiders quickly began to retreat. There were rumors that deals were being canceled. Brand alliances were abruptly put on hold for evaluation, and even those who had worked with T.I. for a long time were turning away. If the reports of secret investigations were accurate, no one wanted to get caught in the aftermath. Who knows what identities might come to light next if King's arrest was only the beginning? In the brutal entertainment business, loyalty is never prioritized over survival. Meanwhile, the Harris home turned into a paranoid stronghold. According to insiders, family members were instructed not to speak to the media, phones were being seized, and late-night sessions with attorneys evening. According to reports, T became more reclusive as though he realized the full storm hadn't even arrived yet, while Tiny sobbed, incensed that the prosecution had used her son as an example. According to some, he even briefly contemplated leaving Atlanta out of concern that he might already be the target of federal investigators. Perhaps he was correct, as within days there were rumors that financial investigators were snooping around the Harris empire, looking into past endorsements, money transfers, and business transactions that suddenly seemed dubious in the bright light of scandal. Then the alleged audio leak occurred. A blurry, warped video purportedly from the evening of King's arrest appeared online. Fans claimed the recording, which was hard to hear but easy to sensationalize, showed King yelling, "You can't touch me. I'm a Harris." Critics claimed it was evidence of hubris and contempt. It was fabricated to discredit him, according to supporters. But the clip went viral, whether it was real or not. Overnight, it changed the story. King was now seen as entitled, arrogant, and deserving of punishment rather than as a victim of the system. Ty could feel the ground eroding beneath his feet as public sympathy changed. There were repercussions for that change. Reports surfaced that a streaming platform had halted a planned T.I. documentary within hours of the audio leak. A liquor company discreetly withdrew from the talks. Before it ever launched, a clothing line cooperation was canceled. In this sector, money talks, and money was beginning to leave the Harris name alone. This was worse than the courtroom catastrophe for a man whose business was based on hustle and branding. This was poison for the finances. The collapse was economic in nature as well as emotional. The murkiest rumors, however, had nothing to do with money. They have to do with power. It started to be rumored that competing rappers had given law authorities information, making agreements to shield themselves while blaming King. Some blamed Atlanta musicians who had a long-standing feud with T.I., implying they saw a chance to exact revenge at last. Others conjectured that lawmakers were keen to improve Atlanta's reputation and would use King Harris as the ideal prize to demonstrate their tough-on-crime stance. According to one unnamed source, this isn't about King. This is about revenge, and it's personal. If accurate, that implied that the Harris family wasn't merely opposing the structure. They were engaged in combat with adversaries on all fronts. Online admirers, meanwhile, became amateur investigators, searching through revived stories, hazy paparazzi photos, and old interviews, certain they were assembling the truth. Suddenly, a picture of T shaking hands with a local lawmaker turned into evidence of a dubious transaction. An old video of Tiny discussing difficulties in her family was reframed as proof that she was more knowledgeable than she acknowledged. Frame by frame, even innocuous videos of King showing off his stuff were analyzed and contrasted with purported financial records that were making the rounds on Reddit. The internet wasn't merely observing Harris's demise. One rumor at a time, they were actively constructing it. King's actions within the prison fueled the flames. Allegedly anonymous letters alleged that he was fighting with guards, not cooperating, and boasting to other prisoners about his family name. Whether it was true or not, the tale lingered, portraying him as reckless and conceited, even when he was in prison. The public had more ammunition to make fun of him, and the system had more reason to keep him imprisoned. Once more, perception was crucial, and the more negative the rumors became, the more negative the public's opinion of King became. The story had changed entirely by now. This was more than just the tale of a troubled son. It was the fall of an empire. Blog began writing about the Harris dynasty in question, and stopped blogging about King Harris's punishment. Who might take the Harris family's place at the top of Atlanta's cultural hierarchy was a topic of discussion on podcasts. Competing rappers recognized openings. Promoters discussed changing allegiances in whispers. The wolves were no longer merely circling. They were getting ready to jump. Meanwhile, one image remained ingrained in the popular consciousness. Unable to stop the storm, T collapsed in that courtroom. However, a new rumor surfaced just when it appeared that the scandal could not get much greater, making all that had come before it seem insignificant. According to unnamed insiders, rappers and promoters weren't the only people in the sealed files. Politicians, investors, and even local leaders connected to Atlanta's power structure were among them. King Harris's 5-year sentence wouldn't have been punishment if it were the case. It was a warning shot, bait, and a reminder that the actual storm was still on the horizon. Furthermore, the Harris family wouldn't just be overthrown if that storm materialized. It might rock Atlanta's hip-hop scene as a whole, seen to its base. It was not what King did that everyone began to wonder. Who are they actually pursuing? Furthermore, T might not have been the king at all if King was only the pawn. Perhaps the system was waiting to remove someone even higher up on the board. Fans went crazy with that concept. They tossed names carelessly. The paranoia increased and theories became more sinister. A family tragedy was no longer the only aspect of the Harris scandal. It was a cultural earthquake with unpredictable aftershocks. The most terrifying aspect was that every rumor, leak, and whisper implied that this story's second portion wasn't the end. It was just the start of something far more explosive, far darker, and far larger than anyone could have ever dreamed. If Atlanta was rocked by rumors of sealed files, the rest of the hip-hop world was rocked by what followed. This was no longer just about a father, a son, or even a family dynasty all of a sudden. It concerned the potential for a whole sector to collapse under the weight of secrets that should have remained hidden. Those sealed documents, according to anonymous insiders, contained more than just dubious business records. They were said to have names. Rappers' names continue to top the charts. $1-million event promoters and even elected leaders who had previously posed for pictures with the Harris family. King Harris's 5-year imprisonment was not a penalty at all, if this is accurate. It was destiny, a warning, a reminder that no one was above the law, no matter how strong. The true paranoia then began to set in. According to industry rumors, federal investigators were snooping about not just T.I., but also half of the Atlanta rap scene. Anyone who has ever conducted business with the Harris family felt suddenly like they were being targeted. Overnight, old friends became strangers. Colleagues withdrew. Fearing their names will appear in the next leak, even casual associates began to sever their connections. Not only was the Harris empire crumbling, but it was radioactive, and anyone near it may get burned. The streets became agitated in the meanwhile. Retaliation rumors proliferated. Similar to wildfire, according to reports, other crews were circling Harris houses in anticipation of the ideal opportunity to attack. Enemies regarded this as an ideal opportunity to seize Atlanta's cultural crown, according to anonymous posts on underground sites. With T.I.'s courtroom breakdown replaying on every screen, the image of fragility was too potent to ignore. One spooky message said, "When the king falls, the vultures feast." The empire appeared to be waning daily, and the wolves were smelling blood. Within the Harris, the tension in the home was intolerable. There have been rumors of yelling confrontations between Tiny and Ty, with Tiny advising caution and Ty urging an instant appeal. According to some, he was afraid that if he pushed too hard, it would lead to investigations that could ruin them all. Do you believe this has to do with King? According to one insider, T said, "This is about me. This is about all of us." If that comment is accurate, it indicates that even Ty thought the case was more significant than what the public was seeing, more significant than King's haughtiness, and more significant than a 5-year sentence. It was about tearing down what he had constructed. Naturally, every detail, rumor, and piece of unsubstantiated gossip was seized upon by the internet. Breakdowns of purported cash leaks were posted by YouTube channels. Twitter timelines became battlegrounds as TikTok detectives linked with people who might or might not have existed. Several supporters pleaded for justice, citing systematic discrimination. Others made fun of the collapse, using it as leverage. Millions of people viewed images of toppled sculptures and memes depicting T.I. falling in court. Entertainment may bring down a dynasty in the age of social media. However, the whispers became much more sinister. The names of former co-workers, bodyguards, and business partners who were allegedly prepared to testify if prosecutors focused on T.I. were included in one purportedly leaked confidential witness list. The internet was enraged by one line in particular. A former co-worker is prepared to attest to financial malfeasance. Is it real? Just the fact that such a document existed was enough to rock the business. Supporters questioned if prosecutors were prepared to turn on insiders. When will the Harris dynasty be totally overthrown from within? Business partners started to panic as well. There were rumors that properties associated with the Harris name were being examined, and some had even been marked for further examination. Possible raids, asset freezes, and rumors of money laundering. The idea that this was more than a family scandal was strengthened by it all. This operation was a take-own. The record was supposedly set off by one entertainment lawyer. This has nothing to do with a sentence. Control is at issue here. They are demonstrating to the entire industry who is in charge. King's 5 years were merely the first move of a much larger game, if that is accurate. Fans were enthralled. Some started speculating that competing rappers had made deals, exchanging information about the Harris family for favors in their own legal proceedings. Others conjectured that politicians would be keen to remove a well-known name in order to improve their reputations. The most outrageous notion of all then emerged, claiming that this was a component of a federal operation that targeted Atlanta's whole hip-hop power structure, not just the Harris family. One anonymous tweet said, "And King was the warning shot." Meanwhile, King's story continued to stoke the fire inside the prison. He was depicted as haughty, fighting with guards, boasting about his family name, and refusing to cooperate in anonymous letters and unconfirmed audio recordings. It made no difference if it was real or not. The Harris collapse remained front-page news thanks to the articles that sustained the scandal. The more brutal King showed up in these thus, it was more difficult for Ty to slant the story in his favor, and simpler for the public to accept his sentencing. This was the height of humiliation for a man whose job depended on maintaining control over his appearance. However, rumors started to circulate that King wasn't even the largest domino in this tale, thus the deadliest twist was still to come. That the evidence that linked Ty to cases that had been forgotten for years was being held by prosecutors. Cases of firearms, drugs, dubious real estate transactions, and even financial irregularities that had inexplicably vanished from the news. It would be more than simply a scandal if those cases came up again. It would be the Harris Empire's demise. The fans began to question the unimaginable. Was T always the true target? Was King merely a pawn sacrifice used to subdue the monarch? The paranoia got out of control. Allegedly, even industry allies began to distance themselves out of fear that being associated with T.I. would bring them into the controversy. Business partners stopped talking after devoted pals stopped answering the phone. Former co-workers discussed making agreements in whispers to protect themselves. Not only was the empire crumbling, but it was falling apart from the inside out. And there was still one eerie picture throughout it all. Unable to halt the storm he knew was coming, Ty collapsed in that courtroom. It was obvious by now that this was more than a controversy. This takedown was well planned. A live broadcast of a dynasty disintegrating for the world to witness. The most terrifying aspect was that every rumor, leak, and murmur hinted that the story wasn't finished. If anything, it was only getting started. Because the fundamental question still stood if King Harris was only a pawn. In reality, who is the king they're pursuing? Fans, reviewers, and insiders were all left wondering the same thing as the question lingered in the air like smoke after an explosion. Who will be next if the Harris family can collapse this quickly and with such force? The question is no longer solely about King Harris in light of all that has happened, including the courtroom collapse, the 5-year sentence, leaks, whispers, and reports of sealed documents. It's about the true significance of this scandal. Was this fair? Or was this a well-planned takedown intended to make T.I. look bad and serve as a reminder to the hip-hop industry as a whole that no one is safe? Consider it. The cameras had already been installed. With rapid speed, the leaks were discovered. Furthermore, the repercussions spread more quickly than any courtroom transcript could. Is that a coincidence? Sounds like a plan or not? What about T.I.? Was his downfall merely the heartbreak of a father? Or was it an indication that his dominion was already in decline? Be assured that you are dealing with more than simply a controversy when business associates withdraw, allies stop talking, and even family members begin to wonder how serious this is. You may be seeing the end of a dynasty. The vultures are feeding, the wolves are circling, and if the rumors are to be believed, King's 5 years are only the prelude to a much darker performance. But what do you think? That's the actual question. King Harris was a victim of the system? Or was he just experiencing the negative effects of his wealth and conceit? Is this a case of a careless child making poor decisions? Or is the goal here to silence a dynasty that has had too much power for too long? Above all, who is the monarch they are actually pursuing if the king was only a pawn? This is not only my experience. It's also yours, so share your ideas in the comments section. The next chapter of this controversy is about to begin, so hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I assure you that you will not want to miss the truth when it blows up.